What's up, guys? I'm Caden with Crypto Now or Never, and welcome back to another market update. If you enjoy this style of content, please do me a favor and hit that like and subscribe button. As always, none of this is financial advice. Let's get into it.
I have a dream, that's all I need. I'll make it happen with some work and belief. Know what I want.
Okay, so if you guys have been watching any of my recent content, I was telling you guys about how yesterday was the FOMC meeting. And as you guys can see right here 19 hours ago, the Federal Reserve leaves interest rates unchanged. They remain at 4.25% to 4.5%. And I know a lot of people out there were hoping for rate cuts. However, it was like a 98% chance that they weren't going to get changed. So there are a few ways that you guys can look at this. Again, I understand a lot of people wanted them to get changed. But at the same time, all it does is provide a future catalyst for us. There is a very good chance that the market reacts positively to a rate cut, and eventually it is going to happen. And you also have to remember that the market almost always front runs news. So if there's a high likelihood of rate cuts, then the market's probably going to front run it. But you pair this with the fact that M2 global liquidity has been breaking out since January, and it shows you that we are not in a bad spot at all. Now, yes, M2 global liquidity looks like it's pulling back a little bit, but it's still showing incredible strength. But I'll go over the actual Bitcoin chart in just a second. If you look at the crypto market as a whole, you can see that a lot of the market has just been bleeding over the last week. Everything's pretty neutral over the last 24 hours, but over the last week, we're seeing down 8%, 4%, 3%, 9%. And if you click on meme coins, it's even a lot worse than that. Down 10%, 9%, 16%, 10%, 17%, 13%, 19%. Pretty much everything in the market is bleeding. And a lot of these meme coins naturally are going to bleed also though because Ethereum has been bleeding. You can see that Ethereum had actually broken through the bottom trend line of this bull flag a couple times. But what's interesting is we still have not closed beneath it. The two most recent candles were very close, but they still closed above. We'll have to see how today's candle actually closes because it also looks like it's very close to closing beneath it. But either way, this just shows you the strength of this trend line. We have bounced off of it so many different times. But what I've been pointing out recently is that the stochastics are extremely oversold for Ethereum, and we also have a Class C bullish divergence. You can see that the RSI is currently a double bottom and price action is swinging into a higher low. That oftentimes can also signal a bottom. But also don't be shocked at all if we do see price action come down here and get a bounce off of the 50-day. This could be another perfect level to get a bounce off of. I won't really turn short-term bearish unless we close beneath the 50-day. But what I also want to point out about Ethereum is this chart right here. So you can see the Ethereum whale net position change. And what's very interesting about Ethereum is you can see that a lot of whales have been loading up heavily over the last 2 weeks. You can see a massive spike. However, again, if you look at price action, it's not reflecting that at all. This is very interesting. Oftentimes when you see stuff like this going on behind the scenes, it means that a huge move could be right around the corner. I'm telling you right now, whales are not loading up for no reason. They got to be in the position that they're in for a reason. They know what they're doing. I'm not saying every single whale in the world knows what they're doing, but for the most part, they do. So when I see a chart like this, I can't help but think Ethereum is eventually going to break out of this flag. Obviously, though, nothing is guaranteed. But you also have to understand that if Ethereum does break out, this is going to be very good for the entire altcoin market and a lot of the meme coins that we trade on my channel, like Kokoro, like Megals, like Oscar, like Hoppy. Most of the projects that we cover on this channel are built on Ethereum, so you want to see an Ethereum breakout. That's just the reality of the situation. Now, I do also want to take a quick look at Bitcoin. So the weekly time frame on Bitcoin is very interesting. It's very indecisive. As I showed you guys, M2 global liquidity has been breaking out since January, and usually M2 global liquidity front runs breakouts. Now, you could argue that this was the breakout. However, there's also an argument that we do go much higher because this was a very strong breakout. However, what I do think is a possible scenario for the weekly is that price action just continues to consolidate for a little while. I wouldn't be shocked at all if we just see this continue to flag out and it gives the RSI and stochastics a chance to actually reset. And you guys already know the level that I'm eyeing right here is the 21 weekly moving average. Don't be shocked if price action does eventually touch this white line. Now, I'm not saying it has to drop all the way down to that line. That's where it also could just consolidate for a while and this line will creep up to price action. Either way, though, this is a very intriguing level to watch. But this is the weekly time frame where things are more interesting is if you look at something like the 3-day. Something like the 3-day looks like it absolutely could be about ready to bounce. If we come down here and we retest the 21-day, we could get a very nice bounce, especially because I'm looking at the stochastics and seeing extremely oversold stochastics. This tells me that the 3-day looks primed for a bounce. And then if I pair the 3-day with the monthly, which is even bigger than the weekly, I think the monthly also looks very good. We had two very strong candle closes in a row, and this recent candle close was actually the highest close that we have ever had. And if you look at the stochastics, they still have plenty of juice to keep going. Now, obviously, we're going to have to see how this June candle actually closes, though. This right here would not be a very good close just because it would look like tweezer tops. And usually, if you get tweezer tops, it can potentially signal a local top. So ideally, we do want to get a stronger close, and that absolutely could happen again if like the 3-day or the daily breakout. But overall, you have to understand we are not in a bad position at all right now. Again, I understand a lot of people wanted rate cuts, but this is not bad. It's not like rates increased, they stayed the same. And crypto is in a much better position than it was 3 or 4 months ago. And all this news does right here is let us know that there's still a future catalyst for us. But if you guys are interested in crypto and getting into projects super early and anything of that sort, then I always recommend taking a look at my Discord. We're in the markets every single day and we've been making huge gains in here. If you just look at the all-time gainer list, we have hit some massive gainers. And if you look through the crypto gain section, we're printing in here pretty much every single day. So if this is the kind of community that you'd like to be a part of, you can find the link right here on my YouTube homepage. And I'd love to see you guys in here. That's about all. Let me know down in the comments how you guys are feeling about the market. If you found this content valuable, please do me a favor and hit that like and subscribe button. Thank you guys for watching. Have a great rest of your day.